So, Tinubu is trying to breach the Supreme Court's judgment. Tinubu is trying to usurp the power of the National Assembly to make law. Tinubu is the executive. So Tinubu now wants to be the legislature, the judiciary, the executive in the issues of Rivers State. If this is not military dictatorship, if this is not a declaration of martial law, tell me what it is. Because rule of law means that government should do everything in accordance with the law. Which law has given Tinubu the rights to appoint a friend of his, or a stooge of his, or a loyalist of his, and overthrow the elected representative of Rivers people and use such people to govern Rivers State? So what happened in Rivers State is a coup, and Nigerians must rise against this. The president of South Korea, like I said, was removed and is facing trial for declaring a martial law upon the country. So Tinubu ought to be removed and ought to be facing trial for treason. This is the treason we're talking about, not arresting children who do not know anything about removing a government and saying you want to try them for treason. This is the actual treason. So what happened in Rivers State is a coup and should be regarded as that. It's not a declaration of state of emergency. It's a declaration of martial law, whereby you remove elected representatives by force of arms and then you install a leader, which is a sole administrator outside the democratic norms of the society. These people are making Nigerians to be a joke in the international community. They should understand what they are doing. Because if this president is set, what it means is that any president can use the instrumentality of the so-called state of emergency and take over all the states which he did not win during election. Any state that he feels might hinder his re-election, he will just use that method and go and take it. Aristotle said, it is a bad thing for any human being with all the disorders and affections of the human mind to become the sovereign authority which ought to be reserved for the law itself. Tinubu is not the sovereign authority in Nigeria. Sovereignty belongs to the people, and every government derives its power and authority from the people. So what Tinubu did is treasonable. That is a declaration of martial law and should be seen as such. And he's calling the governor. Which governor? The governor that said he's going to obey everything about the Supreme Court judgment and has obeyed all. And you're still calling him. That means you have a sinister motive to overthrow this government by force. And that is exactly what he did. Deploying the military. Because that deployment is against the judgment of the Supreme Court, which is an impeachable offense for a president to move against the judgment of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is very clear. No money should be spent, and they even stopped the allocation to that state. So saying that you will unilaterally make a law to overrule the Supreme Court and give the money of Rivers people to a sole administrator who is not even from their state, who is not even elected by them, means that you want to use your power, which is military power, as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. You want to use the armed forces to steal the money of Rivers people and use it and give to your stooges, because there is no law that covers it. Like I said, the Supreme Court is clear. Any act of governance not covered under an enabling law is a nullity. So Tinubu is trying to breach the Supreme Court's judgment. Tinubu is trying to usurp the power of the National Assembly to make law. Tinubu is the executive. So Tinubu now wants to be the legislature, the judiciary, the executive in the issues of Rivers State. If this is not military dictatorship, if this is not a declaration of martial law, tell me what it is. Because rule of law means that government should do everything in accordance with the law. Which law has given Tinubu the rights to appoint a friend of his, or a stooge of his, or a loyalist of his and overthrow the elected. So what the state of emergency actually is doing is that the president should empower the democratic forces to be able to overcome the danger, even if it means using extraordinary measures. What is the extraordinary measures? The state of emergency that is talking about that extraordinary measure is that you have the right to restrict the fundamental human rights of Nigerians when you are taking away the extraordinary measure. It does not mean removing elected representatives. And this was stated in section 45 of the Constitution, when they say that the provisions of the human rights cannot invalidate any law made by the National Assembly if that law is intended for the defense, public safety, public morality, public order, or public health of the country. And even that section made it clear that the National Assembly has the power to make such law for the defense, even if it affects the fundamental human rights. And the president suspended these sections and wanted to rule Rivers State by decree, because he has already usurped the power of the legislature. And that is why I'm saying that what he declared was martial law, was a coup against the people of Rivers State. Rivers State are the ones that elected the governor and the members of the House of Assembly. And even by Interpretation Act, he said he that appoints is the only person that have the power to remove. So the president did not appoint the governor. He did not appoint the members of the House of Assembly. They were elected. So the president has no right to remove them. And any government in place in a democracy was instituted by laws. And that is why the Supreme Court say any act of governance that is not covered under an enabling law is a nullity. Even the National Assembly that has the rights, and I'm talking now about the state of emergency, for you to know the difference from the state of emergency and what Tinubu did. In the state of emergency, Section 305 was clear. You declare state of emergency when there is war or when there is imminent threat of invasion of Nigeria. That has not happened. Or when there is actual breakdown of public order and public safety as to warrant extraordinary measure to correct the situation, or where there is a danger that such a thing will happen, or where there is a natural calamity of such that needs extraordinary measure to correct, or where there is a threat to the collapse of the Federation of Nigeria. This is Section 305, subsection 3. Now, none of these things has happened, and the president came on TV to say there is a security report for you. Security reports, Mr. President, is for you. It is not for Nigerians. So anything that Nigerians do not know should not know Nigerians. You that know your security report, the security report has not given you the right to remove elected representatives. So what the state of emergency actually is doing is that the president should empower the democratic forces to be able to overcome the danger, even if it means using extraordinary measures. What is the extraordinary measures? The state of emergency that is talking about that extraordinary measure is that you have the right to restrict the fundamental human rights of Nigerians when you are taking away the extraordinary measure. It does not mean removing elected representatives. And this was stated in section 45 of the Constitution, when they say that the provisions of the human rights cannot invalidate any law made by the National Assembly if that law is intended for the defense, public safety, public morality, public order, or public health of the country. And even that section made it clear that the National Assembly has the power to make such law for the defense, even if it affects the fundamental human rights. And in section 11, subsection 4, the Constitution made it clear that the making of the law by the National Assembly does not include the removal of the governor or the deputy. That is, even if the legislature is not functioning in that state. What does that tell you? That no law gives any right to any elected president to remove the elected representatives of the people. Now, let me tell you this catch. Because the president is referring to one pipeline or two that was breached during the regime of President Goodluck Jonathan. The whole pipelines in Niger Delta were threatened. most of them breached by the militants that have waged war against the Federal Republic because of the marginalization of the Niger Delta. President Goodluck Jonathan, bless his soul, that was a situation that needed a state of emergency. He did not even declare a state of emergency because he did not believe that there was anything extraordinary in what these people are doing, which the security forces cannot contain. He simply made an order that the security forces should restore order in that region and arrest the culprits and bring them to justice. This was what he did. And the security forces moved in. No governor was affected, no House of Assembly was affected, and it led to the dialogue, which resulted in the amnesty, which brought peace to the region, which we are enjoying today. When a competent president wants to make peace in any part of the country, he goes it by the way that President Goodluck Jonathan, that President Umaru Yar'Adua went about it. You negotiate, you go into dialogue, not going to support your appointee in order to destroy the state because you want to capture the state. That is why it is not a state of emergency that he's doing, because Yar'Adua faced with the problem in the entire Niger Delta, which breached all the pipelines, which brought war against the Federal Republic, did not even declare a state of emergency. And the president is telling you apprehension, there is tension, not that is anything actual, no evidence. So that is one. Secondly, when Goodluck Jonathan was faced with invasion, insurgency by a terrorist group called Boko Haram that has taken over local governments and 3 states were under threat, Goodluck Jonathan rightly declared a state of emergency and did not remove any governor, did not remove any elected representative of the people. Why? Because he was not declaring martial law, he was declaring state of emergency. And he took out that situation. I remember when Boko Haram, before the election, in 6 weeks, he wiped them out. Why he declared the state of emergency is to let the people know your movement might be curtailed. So don't come and quote for us freedom of movement. You should not come out in so time because stray bullets can catch you.